So hello from Green-Mopeds. Today we're taking out a new bike for us, which is from a company that you should have all heard of, Segway. Segway are renowned for inventing the stand-on two-wheel, not self-balancing, but it's well, you see them around the cities, that you stand on them, the two wheels are side by side, you sort of lean forward to go forward, lean back to stop. They call it a personal electric transport device. But Segway have a whole raft of electrical things, including a robot mower, of all things, kick scooters, or e-scooters as they call them. They have another division that does quads, ATVs, all that sort of stuff. A couple of models there. They still do the PET vehicle, but now they've branched out into this. So they've actually currently got, now available in the UK, 3 bikes, all 50cc licenses, and there's one called a B110S, which is a bit like a NIU NQi. I mean, we've got one. We'll show it to you on a static review. Then they've got a single battery version of this, which is called the E110S, and then they've got this one, which is the E125s. So I guess somewhat confusing to call a 50cc license equivalent a 110, because there is a category, a 110cc bike, and to call another 50cc category bike, this one, a 125s, you could look at it and maybe think, oh, this must be a 125cc equivalent, but not so. They're all mopeds. They are bringing out something which they've called, again, a little bit confusing, I suppose, an E300S. But that is a 125cc license. So anyway, that's how they've chosen to do it. So the B110S, the baby one, the E110S, same as this, single battery, less powerful. The one that we did a ride review a few months ago, well, quite a while ago now, when we were considering them. And now this one has come along, which is a 2-battery version, essentially the same as the E110S. And then there's going to be a powerful one coming called the E300S, and that's going to be here in a couple of months. Okay, so this one, made in collaboration with a company called Ninebot. Segway and Ninebot joined up in 2015, and as I said, Segway have been around since the late 90s, so even though these are their first vehicles, it's not as if they don't know what they're doing. And you can feel it's a good quality bike, it's sturdy, solid, nice sort of accents of chrome. So they've got the chrome mirrors, chrome brake levers, the rear footrests, and the rear grab rail for the passenger is chrome. So they haven't sort of flinched on any of that sort of side of it. It is 48 volt, 30 amp hour times 2. Okay, so that's 2.88 kilowatt hours of capacity. I'll compare more at the end, but to compare that to another bike around the same sort of class, the only other one that gives you that in a 28 mile an hour version that we do is predominantly the Horwin EK1. That has one battery that gives 2.8 kilowatt hours. Okay, and it can have another, so if you really, really want range, then the Horwin EK1 dual battery would give you more range than this. But by the by, a Horwin EK1 with one battery does, and we tested it, about 55 miles of range. So you would expect this, bearing in mind that the maximum power is a little bit more than a Horwin, you would expect this to do about that, 50 odd miles. Okay. So far, we have set off with the speedo at 0, and we have done 20 miles, and as you can see, I am still at 60% of my battery. So, you know, it looks like it's heading towards 50, if not a little bit more. And I haven't been sort of going slowly or whatever. I've been riding to the limits that I'm allowed to ride. So you should expect to get 50, I would say, which is quite good. I mean, if you have another comparison bike, you might compare it to an NIU NQi ER. That's the extended range version of the NQi, which was their very, very first N-Series bike way back in 2019. It's still around. They stopped doing it in this country for a while, and now they've brought it back. But that has only got 1.8 kilowatt hours of capacity, so versus 2.8. So obviously the range is going to be quite a lot less. Usually we say that those ones do about 30 miles. Okay, so it's a good bike in terms of, you know, a good basis of a lot of range, I suppose, is one way to put it. Okay, so the other interesting thing about this bike is where the batteries are. So on a Horwin, the battery or batteries both go under the seat, whereas on this bike, both the batteries go under the floor. There aren't too many bikes that put batteries under the floor, or two batteries under the floor. The only other one that we know of, or that we do, is the Sunra Robo S, and that's a 125cc bike. So you can't even say that that is really comparable to this one. So fairly unique in that. What that does give you is 27 litres of space under the seat for bits and bobs. So they suggest 2 open face helmets. Okay, I'll come back to that. While we're stationary, here's the dash. You can see it's very clear. You've got your modes. Changing of modes is accompanied by a little bit of a beep. Maybe you can hear that. You can open the seat lock from here. That's to enable ready down here. You've got your indicators, which do make noise. And you've got cruise control and then lights and stuff like that. It's keyless, but I'm using the key. Don't have to. It can all be done through the fob. USB port and a little cubby hole. Bag hook, and then your charging port is down here. As you can see, there's quite a lot of foot space, quite a wide platform, and a flat seat, which is one of the things that I quite like, because then I can sit where I want rather than sit where it tells me to. So, for example, on the NIU NQi and the Horwin EK1, both of those have ridges in their seats, so you have to sit basically where you're told. Okay, not so on this. I can sit wherever I want, which is obviously good for me. It's 1.88 meters in length. Weight, I forget, but I think it's about 110 kilos. So yeah, that's the batteries, both under the floor. The way you get to the batteries is you open the seat, and there's a latch underneath there, and pull that latch, and then the floor panel down there between my feet, that releases, and then you get access to the seat batteries. Okay. The one thing I would say is, when it comes to charging, you can only charge one battery off the bike at a time. So that's the same with the Horwin EK1 though, but something to remember. If you want to charge both the batteries, then you would be basically charging it through the bike or by a second charger. Okay. Charging time is 4 hours, and part of the reason for that is it's a 20 amp charger, which is high. I mean, Super Socko CPX is 15. The MQi GT from NIU is 26, but it's not. It doesn't use 26 all at once. It depends on how many batteries you're charging and things like that. So, 4-hour charging is pretty good. I think they said 2.5 hours for 80%. So then trickle the rest. So that's also good. So that's charging time. A bit more around the dash. So you might notice this little blue light around the edge. That will change as we get faster, but it will also go green when we've got regen. So this bike does have regen, and it also has ABS. So for a bike in this class, which is the sort of £3,500 bracket, there is no other bike that has ABS and regen. In fact, this is the only bike that I know in that bracket that has ABS at all. The other thing about it is that it also has programmable regen. So you do all that through the app, and we'll talk a bit more about that at the moment. But you see the dashboard surroundings change colour as I accelerate, and you see it picks up pretty good. And then when I brake, it goes green to show that it's regen. If you had the highest setting of regen, it would slow down the bike on its own without you having to touch the brakes. Okay, so it's a bit like, you know, what they're talking about with Teslas and things like that. It is quite an aggressive regen, okay, which is good. As to would I buy a bike or would I not buy a bike if it didn't have regen, at the end of the day, you're not going to get, 20-30% back by using it, because you haven't got a lot of weight, therefore you haven't got a lot of momentum, therefore you're not necessarily going to gain a lot back on your regen. But anyway, it does have it, and it's something for nothing. Okay, so the regen has 3 different settings: low, medium, high, and you set that through the app. Okay, whether you would want to change it after you've set it once, who knows, but at least it's an option. Okay, so that's that. So it's a 28 mile an hour bike. It's not necessarily going to set any records about acceleration and things like that, although I feel it is quite responsive. Obviously it's going to hit its limit of 27, 28 miles an hour. It is 3 kilowatts max. Okay, so that's 4 horsepower max. Again, for those of you who are used to petrol bikes, you'll say that's woeful. But again, the way these bikes work, because they're so efficient, you're going to get from that 4 horsepower, you're probably going to get 3.5 to the actual wheel, because it's a hub motor. Whereas if you had a 4 horsepower petrol bike, you would probably get 0.8, because they're so inefficient. Okay, so you cannot compare horsepower on electric and petrol. Okay, so 4 horsepower, it's about normal. There's lots of 3 kilowatt bikes out there, an MQi GT. So another one to consider is the Amelco Sender, maybe, which has got 2 60 26 amp hour batteries, I think, from a company called Lueng. But basically, there aren't too many 3 kilowatt bikes to compare it to. The Horwin is 2.8, as I said, max, that is. The NIU NQi is 2.4. MQi GT is 3. Sender is 3. So you're all around that sort of ballpark in terms of power. Okay. So what other things does it have? So obviously, well, not obviously, it has an alarm. It has a seat sensor, and by that I mean it can detect if you're on the bike or not, sitting on it. Okay, so if, for example, and I can show you this at the lights, if, for example, I get off the bike, or sorry, yes, get off or stand up, let's say, it will beep at me, and it will wait for a short amount of time before turning off the bike. So as you see there, as soon as I stand up, it goes orange. And eventually, if I leave it, as in I walk away, it will do a countdown and then turn off the bike and activate the alarm automatically. Okay, so quite a good safety feature. See, it has an alarm for that. You can, as I said, it's keyless, so you don't have to use this fob to start the bike. Key to start the bike. You can just use the fob. It's got GPS within the app. You can set features of the bike within the app. So, for example, one of the things which we'll show you on the static review is the rear light. So the rear light goes across the entire back of the seat. Okay, and it's a brake light, but it's also the indicators. So one of the things you can do is you can say, well, I want that brake light to be fully red across the back, and it will change into indicators on the left and right end segments when I'm indicating. Okay, or you can tell it, I only want the center segment alight, and then the indicators light up when I want them. Okay, so, not a big deal, but there's little things like that that you can do with the bike, okay, through the app. Obviously, the main one that people use this for is tracking, and also things like over-the-air updates for the software, and things like that, okay. It doesn't have things like fingerprint starting or anything like that, but again, not a big deal, I would say. It's got enough for you to do the essential things, okay? So that's that. Is there anything I don't like about it? So I guess if I was to be critical, I would say it's a shame that it is 12-inch wheels, which is what it is. Normally, the bigger the wheel, the more stable it is, but they have got ABS, and they have got sort of traction control, if you want to call it that. So that would help. NIU, for example, have basically standardised on 14-inch wheels for all but one of their bikes now. Horwin have got, I think, 14 at front, 13 at the back, or 13 at front, 12 at the back, something like that. So 12-inch wheels, maybe. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the way the bike rides. It'll be interesting to see when the E300 comes out, which will be a 60-mile-an-hour bike, how that handles with 12-inch wheels, unless they put 14-inch, but I think they're going to do 12. So that's, I guess, one thing I could criticise. If I was being brutal, I would say I wish they had a different coloured seat, but that's just personal preference. The brown and blue's okay. I think I would have preferred black. Talking about that, colours, you probably can't see it, but this blue is it's nice metallic sort of navy, and the other colours are a burgundy, and then a black and a white, but all with the brown seat. Okay. Is there anything else I don't like? No, it comes with a rack if you want extra space. I guess it could be cheaper, could always be cheaper. So it's 3,599, which, if you think about what you've got and you compare it to its nearest rivals, it's probably bang on. So the Horwin EK1 40 amp hour battery, which is the 55-mile range version, is about £300 less. But it has no ABS, no app, has an alarm, but that's about it. Less storage, but if you wanted to spend £1,500 more, you could get it with a lot more range. But then you're talking about £4,800 for a moped, which is quite hefty. Another competitor is the NQi Sport ER. That is 3,149, but no ABS, only a 1.8 kilowatt hour battery. But again, £300-400 less. But again, I think that's probably justified for the extra range you're getting and things like traction control and some other things like programmable regen. So those probably are the two main ones that you might compare this to. So I think for a little bit more money, with the things that you might gain from having this bike, I think it's a fair price. Okay. So what we're going to do just before we sort of wrap up is do our test hill, which is coming up shortly, and we will see how it performs. The E110s wasn't the greatest, to be brutally honest, doing that hill, so hopefully this one will perform better. So we'll come back when we get there and we'll do that, and then we'll wrap up, and then that'll be that. Be back shortly. Okay, so we are coming up to our test hill, Nightingale Lane. Most of the time we come at it from the other way, so we'd already have a bit of speed up, so this will be interesting. One thing to point out that I didn't mention already, noisy indicators, which it's a sort of subtle one at least. Not self-cancelling, but at least it has them. Okay, so let's see what happens with this. So we're on half battery. '21, 22. It's the top that killed its younger brother. Okay, I mean that was fine. The E110s didn't do that at all. So, but that's because it hasn't got the 3 kilowatts. Okay, so passed the test of the hill, so that's good. All right, so in summary, it's a Segway, so you should be fairly confident in the quality. It doesn't bother me that it's their first moped or first range of mopeds, because they've been doing this sort of stuff for years. Okay, it's a good roundabout town bike. It's got good range. I quite like the styling. Not so keen on the brown, but there you go. 3,599 is possibly outside of some people's budget, but for the features it's got, like regen, ABS, app, alarm, 27 litres of storage, I think that price is justified. Okay. So if you'd like to come and test ride this bike, you're more than welcome over in our new store in Brentford. More than happy to let you have a go on it. If you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then again, please feel free to do so. You'll see a static review of this bike at some point. If you need to contact us, please feel free to contact us at hello@green-mopeds.com or any of the other methods that we have. And hope you found that useful, and thanks very much.